The first night I ever learned just how clever a bear can be. I was a kid, tucked away in a little pop-up camper with my mom and dad. The campground was the sort of place where the range's first words were about food safety. Everything had to be locked up, no exceptions. My folks were careful, or so we thought. Every bag of chips, loaf of bread, jar of peanut butter, it all went into the car before bed. But none of us gave a second thought to the 12-pack of soda stashed under the bed platform. To us, it was just a forgotten box of pop. To a bear, apparently, it was a sugary treasure chest. I woke in the middle of the night to the strangest sound, a rhythmic crunch, crunch, slurp. At first, I thought my dad was having a midnight snack, but then the whole bed shuddered under us. My mom whispered, "Do you hear that?" And I'll never forget the way her voice trembled. My dad scrambled up, banging pots and pans like some kind of wild percussionist shouting into the dark. Through the thin canvas, I heard the huff of something enormous, then the unmistakable crack of aluminum, giving way under powerful jaws. It was a bear, right under our bed, crushing cans of root beer like they were nothing. Not only that, it was picky. Out of all the sodas, it ignored the diet ones completely, choosing only the sugary root beers. I remember peeking through a slit in the canvas and seeing the glow of its eyes catch the flashlight beam, foam dripping from its muzzle. My heart hammered in my chest so hard I was sure it could hear me. Dad, in a burst of courage or desperation, bolted for the car. He cranked on the headlights, and the sudden wash of light startled the bear enough that it lumbered off into the trees. Silence fell again, broken only by the fizz of punctured cans spilling into the dirt. We all sat there, wide-eyed, clutching our sleeping bags like shields. None of us got much sleep after that. That night taught me two things. First, never underestimate what a bear can sniff out. And second, even a box of soda can turn into a midnight adventure you'll never forget. That night in the pop-up camper was only the beginning. When morning came, we stepped outside to find the ground, littered with mangled cans, sticky foam drying in the dirt. The whole area smelled like a soda fountain gone wrong. My mom just stood there shaking her head, muttering, "Only you, Jim," at my dad, though it hadn't been his fault at all. Still, the lesson was clear. A bear doesn't just want your bacon, it wants your root beer too. We spent that day hiking a nearby trail, the kind that wound through tall pines and opened up now and then to meadows painted with wildflowers. I kept glancing over my shoulder, half expecting that sugar-charged bear to follow us, burping its way along the path. But the woods felt peaceful, filled with the soft tapping of woodpeckers and the distant rush of a creek. By the time we returned, the camper felt almost safe again. That night, though, the woods reminded us who was really in charge. Just as we were settling in, we heard a crash from a neighboring campsite. Shouts, clanging pots, a dog barking. Another bear, or maybe the same one, had come prowling again. My dad stayed awake most of the night, flashlight in hand, guarding the car where we now made sure every last crumb, wrapper, and can was locked away. I lay there staring at the ceiling, the thin canvas seeming like tissue paper between us, and whatever might wander close. Funny thing is, when I look back on that trip now, I don't remember the fear nearly as much as I remember the feeling of us all sitting together afterward, laughing nervously about how the bear had good taste, choosing root beer over diet. We told that story at every family gathering for years. Remember when the bear stole our sodas? And somehow it turned from a frightening night into one of our favorite family memories. That's the way with camping, I guess. The moments that shake you up in the woods end up being the ones you carry home and laugh about the longest. By the third night of that trip, We were seasoned veterans at bear proofing. Every crumb, every soda, even toothpaste was sealed in the car. My dad double-checked, my mom triple-checked, and I went along behind them just to feel like I was part of the team. The air had that still heavy quiet that comes just before dusk in the woods. No breeze, no bird song, just the smell of pine needles warming on the ground. We built a little fire, nothing fancy, and roasted marshmallows. I remember the way the smoke curled and clung to our clothes, how the glow of the flames carved out a tiny safe island in the endless dark. My mom told me to listen closely, that the forest always talks at night if you're quiet enough. Sure enough, beyond the crackle of the fire, I caught the faint rustle of something moving through the underbrush, a deer maybe, or a raccoon. Every sound made my imagination jump straight to bear. When it came time to sleep, I lay awake listening. The canvas walls felt so thin I swore I could feel the forest breathing just outside. My dad snored like thunder. My mom shifted now and then, but I couldn't close my eyes. Then, just as I was drifting, I heard it. Soft steps in the leaves. Deliberate, circling. I held my breath. A shadow passed in front of the window flap, blocking the faint starlight for just a second. My heart leapt into my throat, but instead of a snort or the weight of something bumping the camper, all I heard was a low, mournful call, an owl hooting. Somewhere close. The shadow was only a branch swaying, tricking me in the half-light. Relief washed over me, and I laughed softly into my sleeping bag, though my hands were still trembling. By morning, nothing had been disturbed. We ate breakfast by the fire ring, my dad cheerful again, my mom sipping coffee from a tin mug, and me. I carried a new respect for those night noises. Out there, every sound is a story waiting to be told. Sometimes it's a bear, sometimes just the whisper of trees, but either way it makes you feel alive, in a way four walls never could. On our last morning in that campground, I remember the forest waking up around us as we packed. A thin mist clung low over the ground, curling around tree trunks like it wasn't ready to leave just yet. Jays squawked in the branches, and the smell of last night's campfire still lingered in our clothes. My dad was whistling as he folded the canvas walls, my mom humming along as she stacked dishes back into boxes. They seemed at ease again, but I couldn't stop glancing toward the tree line, half expecting our root beer thief to show up for a farewell. Instead, the only visitors were a pair of chipmunks, bold enough to skitter right under our picnic table, noses twitching for crumbs. Watching them dart in and out made me laugh. Tiny scavengers, a reminder that out here, everything from the smallest chipmunk to the biggest bear lives by its nose. As we rolled out of the campground, I leaned back in my seat and thought about those nights. The crunching of cans under the bed, the shadows that turned out to be branches, the nervous laughter that followed. Fear had turned to story, and story had turned into memory. It struck me that the woods are like that. They test you, sometimes scares you, but they always leave you with something you carry forever. That trip taught me that the wilderness isn't just about trails or campfires. It's about humility. You realize quickly you're not in charge. Not really. Out there, you're just another creature trying to get by. And if you're lucky, you leave with a lesson that makes you laugh and shiver all at once. Even now, whenever I crack open a can of root beer, I can almost hear the crunch of jaws in the night and feel the camper shudder beneath me. And every time, I'm reminded of that simple truth. The forest has a way of teaching you lessons you'll never forget. Sometimes with a bear, sometimes with a shadow, but always with a story. Years later, when I tell that story by a campfire, Folks always lean in when I get to the part about the bed shaking and the root beer cans popping. They laugh at the image of a bear turning up its nose at diet soda, and I laugh too, though in the moment there was nothing funny about it. What makes me smile most, though, isn't the bear. It's remembering how that trip pulled us together as a family. Out in the woods, the distractions of home fell away. There were no glowing screens, no phones ringing, no work calls pulling Dad away from the fire. It was just us, a canvas roof overhead, and the endless night outside. The bear could have been a disaster, but instead it became a story we carried home. A reminder that sometimes the scariest moments turn into the most cherished memories. I've camped many times since, and I've faced worse. Storms flattening tents, canoes capsizing, long nights with no firewood left. But that bear, with its sugary midnight feast, remains one of my clearest memories. Maybe because it was the first time I truly understood that camping isn't about control. You can prepare, plan, pack, and still the wild will hand you something unexpected. And that, I think, is the beauty of it. Every trip is a gamble, a mix of risk and reward. Sometimes you come home with sore muscles and bug bites. Other times you come home with a story that will make your friends laugh for years. Either way, the woods always give you something worth remembering. So whenever I hear the fizz of a soda can opening, I pause. I take a breath. Let the sound bring me back to that night, to the shudder of the camper and the glow of Dad's headlights scattering a bear into the trees. And I remember the quiet lesson the forest whispered. Out here, you're not in charge. You're just part of the story.